Jimmy.
Yes, Dave.
Mr. Ferraro.
Yes, Mr. Perez.
You know what? When I grew up, I wanted his name. It's like Johnny Bravo. Jimmy
I've got
Ferraro.
the map of Italy on my face.
Absolutely. And we're here at the wonderful
Reveler. Yes, it's on Damon Street in Roscoe Village in Chicago. And we're here because I wrote, produced, and am directing my big, fat Italian wedding murder. And starring in that show is Mr. Dave Perez as Johnny LaGuardia.
How you doing? Hey, that smells good.
Hey, thank you. This is good coffee. They serve it right here at the Reveler.
They gotta make a cologne out of it, like the Seinfeld episode. With,
That's right.
It smells like the beach or whatever.
Oh yeah, I remember that one well.
No, not Cosmo. Yeah, Cosmo.
Cosmo.
Yeah. Anyway.
But hey, here we are.
Yeah.
And we're thrilled. I'm so happy that Dave brought me in. I did this show. I directed it and produced it for 2 years. It ran in Florida. And then I did it in North Carolina too. And I'm just so thrilled to be bringing it to Chicago.
Chicago, welcome. Please. Now,
G-Town.
I want to absolutely talk about what we're going to be doing the next week or two. But I just want to start off with you personally. I mean, you actor extraordinary as well. Tell us about you, your career, how it got started.
Thank you.
What age did you know you wanted to be an actor?
When I was born. Okay, honestly.
There you go.
I did, and interesting enough, I was always singing and dancing and putting on little skits even as a kid. And I remember when I was in kindergarten in New York, that I was in sort of a little play recital type thing at PS 96 in Queens, New York. And an agent, a talent agent at the time from King World Productions, saw me in that, and he approached my family to see if I would do a screen test to do the revival of The Little Rascals as Spanky. Okay, but my Italian family, they didn't want their little kid to be exposed to show business. So, but that was the way I first started.
Okay.
Then at 16 years old, I started singing in nightclubs. Of course, I had to have my parents with me. And the first place I sang was the world famous San Susanne in New York, and that followed up at the Top Hat nightclub in New York as well. And I had my own act that I did, and of course I had to have my parents accompany me on all of those gigs.
How old were you then at that?
16.
16, holy smokes. Yeah, 16, I was just not worrying about this stuff. Wow.
Well, it's something I always wanted to do. My first experience in summer stock, I don't think they have summer stock anymore, but that was when, for the summertime, you went to a theater location that was usually in the country or the mountains, and they would put on a succession of 3, 4, 5, 6 shows during the summer. So you'd be in one show while you're rehearsing for another one that would open in 2 weeks. And I had my first taste of summer stock when I was 15 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was in Ontario, Canada. My first time in a plane, the only one in my family that ever flew at the time. And I'm very fortunate though, Dave, because my parents were very supportive.
That's, my
and
dad,
encouraging.
That's key, especially at a younger age.
Yes.
A lot of parents, don't do that, don't do this, do this, go to work, go to school, because it's not a stable career.
Right. Oh, I know.
So,
I know. I'm very fortunate though that for over 50 years now I've been a working actor, so I'm very thankful and grateful for that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to say the same, but I've only been doing it for about 5 years, and I still work, whether here or FedEx or otherwise.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And you're in it. You're back in it.
Well, that's the thing. I'm back, baby. New episode, very first episode.
And you
Jimmy Bravo. Jimmy Ferraro.
See, I had to wear my little fedora hat here to get the Italian thing going.
So, as time went on, you progressed.
Yes, and I did my first national tour.
Was it always theater? Did you do any film?
I did very little film.
Okay.
But I did like extra roles, I did commercials, but never in any films that were where I had a leading role or a featured role, because I concentrated on the live theater.
Gotcha. So that was your first?
That was my first love, and that's carried me through my entire career.
Wow. which we're going to speak about as well in a second. What you did as you've gotten.
Yes, as I
progressed.
progressed, at 23 years old, I was in New York City and I auditioned for the national tour of Fiddler on the Roof.
Yeah.
Who would have known that I made an entire career out of that show? With over 3,000 performances. When I say that, I can't even believe that I performed in over 3,000 performances of Fiddler on the Roof.
Hey, now, how many years was that combined?
Oh my goodness. Well, I did my first production of Fiddler at an Equity Theater when I was 19 years old.
Wow.
Okay, and then I had done it again at another Equity Theater when I was 20.
Okay.
And then they had this audition for the national tour of Fiddler on the Roof in New York. And it was being directed and choreographed by the original director and choreographer, Jerome Robbins, the god of American musical theater.
Wow. See, I love theater, but I've never reached those ranks yet. But
There's still time, you know, the right time is
I'm
whenever
breathing.
it is.
I'm breathing.
Hey,
So,
you're in a Jimmy Ferraro production right now.
That's right. I
And
don't
it's
know
gonna
about
be
this
more.
other guy, but I know Jimmy. So, you know. So, you were at age 20, you said, right?
23, I got into the
23.
national tour of Fiddler on the Roof, and I auditioned with over 600 other men.
Yeah.
And I was there for hours and hours, and I didn't even want to go to the audition. Because at that time, they had what were called EPAs. EPIs. They were Equity, which is the Actors Union, Equity Principal Interviews. And that was even before you got to audition.
Yeah.
So I went to the interview, and the casting director was Christian Slater's mother.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and she was a big casting director in New York City. I waited around, I got my chance to interview, and she said, "I'm sorry, but you don't look Jewish." I says, "What do you mean I don't look Jewish? I've already been in Fiddler on the Roof."
Yeah, he's played it a few
Twice
times.
already. And she said, "I'm sorry, but there's nothing for you in this production." Okay. So then the auditions came up, and I remember it was a rainy day, and my best friend from high school, I was staying with him, and he said, "Why don't you go to that audition?" I said, "Why should I go?" First of all, they don't even want me because I went to the interview already. So there's nothing for me to show. He said, "Just go. What else are you going to do today? Go." So I did. And I went to the audition. There were 600 other guys at the audition. So we sat around in corners of the theater rehearsal area. And when it was our time to get up, I got to audition. So I sang my song, and they said, "Okay, will you please wait, and we're going to call you again."
Oh, wow.
I did. Well, to make a long story short, they narrowed it down to like 24 of us men. Then they narrowed it down to 12. And then they said, "Thank you very much to everybody."
Then I had no
All right,
fingernails
that was
left and the chewing.
Didn't hear from them didn't hear from this. I figured I didn't get it.
Yeah.
Well, 2 days later, I get a call, and it was from the stage manager, Val Meyer, and he called me and he said, "Jimmy, they want to see you again tomorrow, 10 a.m. at the Minskoff Theater."
Huh.
Okay, well, I guess I'm still up for something.
Yeah.
So I went there, and there was only two of us. Charlie Barry, who is really Charlie Scacciamadio, Charlie Barry and I. And we both were sitting there waiting to be called. I was called first. I went in, and I sang, and they said, "Wait here." Charlie was called in, and he sang. He said, "Wait here." And then Val Meyer, the stage manager, comes out, and he goes over to Charlie. And he puts his hand out and says, "Charlie, thank you so much for coming. Jimmy, we have a contract for you. You're in the show."
Wow.
And I said to him, "I need 20 minutes. I've got to call my mother and father."
I would say, "Give me 5 minutes. I'll be right back."
I
Go
said
to the bathroom
20.
and throw up. Say, "Oh my
And that's
God."
how I got in the first national tour of Fiddler on the Roof. And I was with greats in that. Who started it at that time was Herschel Bernardi. And many of the original actors that were in the Broadway production when it first opened with Zero Mistel.
Wow, that is so cool.
So I did that for a year.
Okay.
Then 6 months later, I was called up and they said, Jimmy, we're picking 12 people from the original company of the national tour. You're one of them, and we're going to Broadway.
Wow. See? See how it is? It's good to be Jimmy.
That's how I made my Broadway debut in Fiddler on the Roof. And that was also with Herschel Bernardi, and playing opposite him was Maria Konilova, who won the Tony Award for Best Actress in a Musical.
That is so cool.
Yeah. And then that was at Lincoln Center at the
Okay.
New York State Theater. And then I went on the second national tour
Holy
of
smokes.
Fiddler on the Roof.
So you just kept going and
Going.
like the Energizer Bunny.
And then I did, of course, many other productions besides Fiddler on the Roof all over the country. And then, lastly, I was chosen to star in the 2012-2013 national tour of Fiddler on the Roof.
Wow.
So I'm like the last actor to have starred in the show. And what was great is that I got to star opposite my wife, Dieta Rowe, who is a Broadway actor as well.
Shout out to you. Thank you for letting us borrow him for a while.
And so I was opposite her, so we played Tevye and Golda, and we celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary in the show. Now that's another story I have to tell you about, because in Fiddler, there's a song, Do You Love Me? And the lyrics at the end say, after 25 years, it's nice to know. Well, we got to sing that on our 25th wedding anniversary. We had 2 shows that day. After the matinee performance, the stage manager brings 24 red roses to my wife, and we take our bow. The curtain comes down. The stage manager runs across the stage, whips the flowers out of my wife's hand, and says, we have to save these. We're giving them to you again tonight after the show.
Double duty, right? What are you going to do?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Fiddler on the Roof, like I said, Dave, over 3,000 performances now.
Okay.
And it's a show that is in my blood. It's in my very being. And people say, well, you must be sick of doing Fiddler on the Roof. No way. And I would honor the opportunity to do it all over again.
Wow. Have you ever been in 2 productions at once? Or you just mainly have always done just the one? I've talked
Just the one at one time.
Okay, because I mean, when I came back after a short year off, this was about 7 years ago. My brother passed away. I took about a year away. I came back, I auditioned, got a role for a theater production in Westchester. It's a town troupe thing, and then my daughter said, "Dad, you should audition for another one. This one's over." I'm like, "I'm still learning lines for this one." And but I did it anyway. And they called me and they go, "Okay, you got the role." I'm like, "Uh-oh, I don't, we start rehearsals next week." I'm like, "I haven't even put this production on yet." So we're in
Showbiz, ain't it grand?
We're in Tech Week, the first week of their rehearsals. So I did Tech Week, and then I went to their rehearsals, and then as we're putting it on, I was going through there. So the weekend we ended, the following weekend I was doing the next one.
Oh my goodness.
So
Duty.
I just didn't want to forget lines and mix them up. But
Of course.
but it's not Broadway. It was local towns, theater, which
Well,
is
you
a
know
little
what I say,
easier.
Dave?
But
Broadway is wherever you are performing at the moment.
yeah,
Okay?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you are as long as you're performing and giving those gifts and your talents to the community.
do it. I
Just
did a
do
bite.
it.
Just do it.
So now we have this show that I'm
Yeah.
doing here in Chicago. Now, I haven't been back to Chicago for 40 years.
Now I got a couple of questions to ask you about.
I was in
that.
nursery school when I was here.
Uh-oh, see? You became a writer as well, because
Yes,
you've written
playwright.
this. What got you into that?
Okay, so I had my own theater in Florida,
Okay.
and there was a director that came in to direct a show that we were doing, and he said to me, "What about doing a murder mystery here?" And I said, "Oh, that sounds good. I've never written one before." And he says, "Well, I have." He says, "What about if we teamed up and wrote a murder mystery for your theater?" I says, "Okay, but I need to write about something that I am familiar with and that I know about.
Exactly.
Not just come up with some idea." And I said, "Well, you know what about all of these big Italian New York weddings
Yeah.
that I've been to from the 70s and 80s when all of my cousins and everybody else got married. And they were big weddings, overdone, and I could say for myself, being a New York Italian, everything was overdone.
Wow.
Your typical, stereotypical Bronx Tale type of thing and
Yeah.
Sopranos type of thing. And so we came up with the idea of putting a show on about a wedding reception where there are murders that take place. 1980s New York Italian. And
Okay.
originally this show was called Marriage is Murder,
All right.
which was a pretty good title.
What flipped it around?
Okay, so my wife said, you know what, I was thinking about this, and do you remember my big fat Greek wedding? I'm like, yeah, of course. She says, what about my big fat Italian wedding murder? I says, oh my goodness, that sounds fantastic. We changed the name, and boy, oh boy, I produced it under that title, and it took off like hotcakes.
Now, you did something similar to this in Florida, or was it still?
No, this one. For
This
2
one.
years.
Oh, wow.
2 years at, big venues.
So what brought you to Chicago then?
Oh, I've been wanting to do this show here. And I have another show that I'm producing and directing called Raunchy Little Musical. And hopefully I'm going to be getting that on the boards this summer here in Chicago. And that's actually what brought me here.
Okay.
So when I was talking to some venue owners regarding that show, they said, well, what else do you do, Jimmy? I said, I have this show that I'm going back to North Carolina, where I live now, to produce, and it's called My Big Fat Italian Wedding Murder. It's a murder mystery. And they said, oh, that sounds fantastic. It's a very trendy thing.
Yeah.
And they says, well, maybe you think about doing it here in Chicago. Ding!
Perfect.
And that's how that happened.
Oh, wow. And Chicago, for what we're doing, the venue and such, everyone wants to get out and see stuff.
Now, yes,
So-
we've been stifled for so
And-
long.
And trust me, I've been in rehearsals, I've got the script, I can't say anything about it, but it's hilarious, it's funny.
It's just like attending a big New York Italian wedding in the 1980s. So our guests are coming to the actual reception. And things happen
Yeah, they do.
there.
Yeah, they do. I can't tell.
But he's Johnny LaGuardia, the best man.
How you doing?
Mm-hmm. Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing okay right now. Hey, I'm back at my first episode, live to tape episode.
So now we open in a few days.
Yeah.
We open on April 23rd and
Yeah.
run weekends through May 14th. So you got to get your tickets because this is a limited run. We have limited seating, but you don't want to miss this show. I promise you. And there's always a different killer. So if you come back to see it again or bring somebody, it may not be the same killer. Probably won't be.
See? But now back to Jimmy.
Yes, I'm reading your mind, Dave. I'm reading your mind. You want to know how to get tickets? How to
Yeah.
get tickets? Oh, online. www.buytix.net. BUYTIX.net.
Get them while they're hot, because they're going to be hot. They are hot. Now back to you and
Oh,
things
boy.
that you do. So you're writing now.
Yes.
Do you want to write another murder mystery, or are you content with this one and continue it?
I have some in mind.
Mm.
And for instance, I have another one called Funeral for a Gangster.
Uh-oh.
Takes place in the 1920s speakeasy. What do you think?
See, I just found this out. Okay. So, episode 2. It'll be episode 2 for that one.
And then there's another one.
Oh.
Happy Death Day to you.
And
And then there's another one. Eat, drink, and be murdered.
oh my God. You've been writing a lot.
I have, and you want to hear my latest one?
Absolutely.
Sitting Shiva for Shelley.
Say that 3 times fast.
Not easy.
No, I can't even say it once. You've been writing a lot. Then.
Yeah, I have.
That's
And
good.
during the pandemic, when there was downtime, we couldn't perform anymore. That's when I spent a lot of time writing and rewriting.
Yeah. But also a reminder about tickets. All the information about this production will be on the end credits. And I believe before we end, I'm going to be showing some fun stage pictures and productions.
Fantastic. Yes, it's a little sizzle reel from a previous production of My Big Fat Italian Wedding Murder, but it'll give you a little bit of an insight of what to expect when you come to the reception.
So you'll catch that out at the very end, and you'll be seeing pictures of him in action floating around.
Floating around.
As you hear us talking. But you'll see him. So you've written a few other different productions, and are you going to put them on in the fall? Can you run two at once?
Oh, sure I can, absolutely. I can do that, but they're already talking about bringing My Big Fat Italian Wedding Murder back to Chicago.
Oh, okay.
But you better get your tickets up front for this production right now, April 23rd through May 14th.
Yeah, the cast is awesome. Awesome.
They sure are. And this is my company, my Chicago company. So we have everybody that lives here is participating and in the show, and that really makes it, kind of homespun.
Yeah. Well, we're having fun. That's,
yeah.
Every night's been fun. It's, when work becomes fun, it's no longer work.
That's right.
And I
look what I've been doing for 50 years.
I told someone the other day, just yesterday, I go, we were talking about the production, and she was asking me about other productions I was in. I go, one thing about Jimmy is this. I've always called it an actor's director, because there's directors that direct actors, and then there's an actor's director. An actor knows that you got to let an actor grow into what he is and experiment with and make choices in his character. And that's what you let us do.
Thank you, Dave.
And you're open to it. You're not this person that says, it's written in stone, I want it this way, and it's a collective bargaining with everyone.
Absolutely. I think people actors kind of get a little weary or worried, this guy, me, wrote it, he's producing it, and directing it. But I tell them, you have to remember that before I did any of this, I was an actor just like you.
Exactly.
So I know what it's like.
Well, that's like film. You get the directors like Spielberg. Well, he wasn't an actor, but he's a great director.
Yes.
But with Tarantino, he was an actor and director at the same time. But they give their actors freedom to experiment with their character. And if it works, hey. And you've been very open about it. And I enjoyed that out of you.
Thank you.
So thank you for
you've been doing a blowout kind of job here, man.
Well, thank you. I haven't got my pinky ring. Hold on. My pinky ring. Yeah, let's get a close up of this pinky ring right there. Oh, right over. Okay, right there.
Oh, you've got to have a pinky ring if you're playing a guy in the Italian.
Oh, yeah. Oh, there's a cocktail. I need a coffee. I'll get a coffee later.
A coffee.
Coffee, that's right. But everyone appreciates that. I could see it.
Thank you. We've got a great cast. Really terrific cast. And
it's been coming along from the first rehearsal. when we had on Monday and then yesterday, they were getting more into character. And once again, it comes out to you being an actor's director. They felt at first they couldn't, then you're like, no, come on. Shimmy then.
Yeah, I said, well, when I have to do that stuff, but make sure you don't have the video camera on.
Then again, I put a garter on him too.
That's true.
That we should have taped.
Now that should have been taped.
Yeah. But yeah, we're all coming along. It's coming along.
Yeah, it's coming along great. So I was telling you, I haven't been back here for 40 years.
Yeah, 40 years.
The last time I was here, what a surprise, was in Fiddler on the Roof, the first national tour at the Auditorium Theater down in the Loop.
And I think I could have swore back then I saw it.
And you were in nursery school too.
Yeah, well, I was sucking my thumb on a bottle of something. But I can remember seeing Fiddler on the Roof way back when. Mm-hmm. So I've had to have seen you in the production.
I remember we were here for 9 weeks, and it was quite a production.
Okay, wow. Would you ever go back?
To Fiddler?
Well,
anytime to Fiddler. I would go back anytime. So if anybody is producing or directing Fiddler on the Roof, you need to tell you, here I am.
You'll get all this information at the end, the credits. And I'd see it too. I'd see it. So you got a lot of things coming up as far as other murder mysteries. Will they be all in Chicago?
They will be here and in North Carolina.
Oh, so you're going to go back and forth?
I am.
Wow. Do you have a trusted partner that would be here when you're there?
I do, and that is my assistant, George McDonald, who's also in the show. He plays Giorgio.
Awesome guy.
He's kind of the maitre d', and as he put it, a former gigolo.
Hey, it's a good job to have if you can get it.
Why not?
I mean, so what production would you have wanted to been in if it wasn't for Fiddler?
You know, I get that question a lot, and I have been so blessed because right after Fiddler, I got to do a show that I really wanted to do, and that was Hairspray.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and those of you who may not know Hairspray, you might know the movie. John Travolta starred in the movie of Hairspray, playing Edna Turnblad. And that's the part that I played. Originally was played by Harvey Fierstein. And Harvey and I have played many of the same roles over the years. In fact, I was up, there was just two of us that were up to replace Harvey on Broadway in Torch Song Trilogy. And there were two of us, and I was the one that didn't get it.
Well, you know what? You got Fiddler and the other guy didn't.
Yeah, you're right. Exactly.
So that's the business, right? We said that before we got on air. We go, hey, or even something on there. This industry it is what it is.
It is. But I've done a lot of Harvey's roles and vice versa.
So you prefer the musical?
I do. Well, you know, I was blessed with a very strong Broadway type voice.
Okay.
So that has always been my calling card.
Oh, neat.
And like I told you, Fiddler on the Roof, 3,000 performances, but there's other shows that I've done again and again and again, which is Guys and Dolls.
Oh, I love Guys and Dolls.
Guys and Dolls, I have played nicely over 1,000 performances. Sit down, you're rocking the boat.
Who are you? And,
Nicely.
Nicely.
Sit down, you're rocking the boat. And Man of La Mancha. Now, Man of La Mancha, I played Sancho Panza, over 1,000 performances.
Okay, something other than musicals, what would you have wanted to be in?
Oh, other than a musical?
Yeah.
Well, well, they have a musical, a version of this also, but Zorba the Greek.
Okay.
Yeah. That's another one. That's kind of like a similar Tevye kind of role. I'm really good at like with these earthy kind of roles, you know, filling that dirt underneath your fingers.
I've seen Zorba too. That was with Anthony Quinn.
Yes.
I've seen Zorba way back when too.
Yeah. And people say, Jimmy, what show do you want to do next? You know, is there another role that you want to do?
Is there going to be? I mean, do you have anything planned or something that you can't leak out?
I don't have anything planned, but I have done all the roles. I'm so blessed to be able to say I've done all the roles that I really wanted to do. I mean, what a blessing is that?
Ultimately, yeah. I mean, it's not over till it's over.
Right.
You know, because who knows? Maybe Fiddle will come back around and say, "Hey, guess what? We need you. We're taking you off the bench."
And after all those performances, I mean, I have all those lines right up here. I could walk in if someone would say, "Our Tevye is out tonight. We need you." I could get through that. Okay, and Guys and Dolls as well, and Men of La Mancha as well. Can you tell a few of the viewers what about your character?
Oh, me?
Yeah,
as far as
you.
I'm playing.
Good.
I'm playing Johnny LaGuardia, right? The best man.
That's right.
That's right. And, that's it. I'm Johnny LaGuardia.
Si agarra, salsa mulata. Ay, mamita, caminando.